Hello, hopeful homesteaders. I'm downstairs in our actual pantry area. Last year was the first real big year that I've ever done a lot of canning, so I ended up with a lot of different jars and things that just don't sit very well on the shelving units that we have. So my husband put together a new shelving unit, and this is what he came up with to be able to hold all of the canning jars well. This is a regular cinder block, and this is the 1-inch spacer, and then just plywood on top. So far we don't think that it's going to get so heavy that it'll bow, so I don't think we're going to have to worry about the middles, but I guess we won't really know until we get all of our jars up here and stored. But there's several different layers of the shelving units, and then down at the bottom it's big enough for 5-gallon buckets. So that way we can store some of the larger things in the bottom, like rice. We go through a lot of rice, so we buy it in bulk and then just use smaller containers as we go through it. So today what I need to do is I need to go through my canning food, my canned food, and take an inventory. The reason why I need to do that is it'll give me a good idea of what I can use for the rest of this summer until our next crop, so this summer's crop, comes in. And it'll also let me know what I need to grow so that I can make some of my goals. So after I take my inventory, my canning inventory, I will make a canning goal for this year, for 2023, of what I want to can, what I want to grow. And that way it'll help me know how many plants I need to start, how much I need to grow, and if I fall short, so say if, for whatever reason all my tomato plants died or something, I would know how many tomatoes I need to buy somewhere else to be able to meet my pantry goals. So let me show you the paperwork that I put together for this purpose. Alright, here's the first form that I have. I printed this out from myfrugalhome.com. I will try and link this in the comments so that you can print it out as well. I liked this one, don't mind, it's a little light because my printer is running out of ink cartridges, but you put your items down here and then you can just check off or fill in the little canning jars for how many you have, and then it does have a spot for you can list what it is, whether it's the quarts, pints, or half pints, which I think is handy because say for pasta sauce I canned it in both quarts and pints. So I would just write it twice. I would write tomato sauce here and tomato sauce here, and I'd use this one for quarts and this one for pints. So that gives you an idea. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go through my cans and I'm just going to list all of the things that I have and how many of each so that I know what I need to meal plan with in the next coming months and what will, if anything, if we'll have any leftover for the coming harvest season. Once I've finished with my canning inventory, then I'm going to write up my food preservation goals for this year. So I have these forms that I printed out from Strangers and Pilgrims on Earth.blogspot.com. I'm going to try and link that down below, but these were free printables that I really liked because it lists all the different ways that you can preserve them. So just for apples, you can write down how many you would like to can, how many you'd like to dry, as in I think freeze dry or dehydrate. I guess you can differentiate yourself. Ferment, which is something I'm just starting to learn about this year, how many you froze, and how many like making medicine, so if they're for medicinal purposes. And there's a fruit page, an herb page, and a vegetable page. And if you need, there's also a notes page. And again, I found that at Strangers and Pilgrims on Earth.blogspot.com. So everything that I canned last year that hasn't been used yet needs to be inventoried before it goes over to our brand new shelving units, and that's what I'm going to do today. I'm going to inventory all of this supplies and whatever is already over there, and so that I got a better idea, and then we'll go from there. Alright, that didn't take too long to do the inventory there, even though unfortunately my jars aren't all on one shelf just yet. Even still, it wasn't too bad to take the inventory. So here's how I set it up. I left one whole page for jams just because I like to make different types of jams, and usually they're flower jams. So I've got blueberry, elderberry, black raspberry, crabapple, red raspberry, strawberry, wild grape. Hi, Felix. This is Felix. Hi, buddy. So strawberry, wild grape, forsythia, violet, chokecherry, and lilac. So I've got quite a few jams. A lot of these are in the very small jam jars, so they're relatively... Oh, can you get your tail? So they're relatively small. Hey, buddy. Hang on. So they're relatively small, but I just wanted to know how much I have and what I have. Right here I have the tomato sauce, and I listed it twice because one size is the pints and then the size below it is going to be the quarts. And the reason I do that is because we use a quart if I'm making it for, say, spaghetti. I use a pint jar if I'm using it for, say, pizza or tacos or something like that. I'm not going to use an entire quart. So that's how I took an inventory, so this way I know when I set out. Yes, he owns the table downstairs. So this way I know when I set out for my goals how much I want to make and how much I'll need to bring in. So that's my next thing. I'm going to get to my goals. One more thing about these forms before I move on to my goal. These forms here, these inventories, are going to be really helpful when I sit down for, say, next month for May, when I sit down to do May's meal plan, because I've got all of my meat now inventoried. I have all of my pantry drawer inventoried, and now I have my canning cupboard inventoried. We still have some other canned goods that aren't included in this. This is just the things that I canned. So we still have like canned corn, even some canned mixed vegetables, that sort of thing. But I'm not going to include it on this list. I only want to know what I have left that I canned and grew myself. So this is going to be really helpful for meal planning. Alright, I finished the first page here. Well, it actually happens to be the last page because it goes in alphabetical order, and then they give you a few blanks at the bottom. But I just wanted to finish part of this so that I can give you an idea of how I filled it out. So for the food preservation planner, this is my goals, right? So this is what I hope to accomplish this year with my garden. So for summer squash, I am not going to can it because it's not actually considered safe to can. But I do want to dry some out to shred it because it can be added in soups and stews and that sort of thing, and you don't taste it. I don't know about fermenting it because I haven't looked into it yet. I do want to freeze a couple of small bags. That's why I wrote 4 cubed bags. So what I'll do is when I grow the summer squash, I will cut it up into little cubes, freeze it flat in the freezer, and then put it in a baggie. So what's different here is tomato sauce. I definitely want to can about 45 quarts. That will give us 1 quart per week to have with some sort of meal for a year once it's added into what we already have. And then I wanted to do 14 more pints, so the smaller jars, so that I can have those for like tacos or pizza. I don't want to dry the tomatoes. I've tried dehydrating them before and I am not a fan, so that was just kind of a waste. I didn't really like it and it ended up in the garbage, so I'm not going to do that again. I do want to try fermenting cherry tomatoes this year. I saw a YouTube video, I can't remember from whom, but I'm going to look into doing that this year. I don't freeze them, and if I do freeze them, it's only temporarily until they can be canned. And as far as medicinal use, I left that blank because I'm not using any of these things medicinally. Let's see, what other one? Okay, here's another one I can show you. So the zucchini, again, I'm not going to can it, although I do have canned zucchini relish, but we haven't had a chance to taste it. I just found it in my pantry again, and this is another reason why it's good to take an inventory, because I completely forgot about the zucchini relish, and I want to try that. And if I like it, I will add it to my canning column, because it is safe to can the relish because it has vinegar in it. If I have any leftover, mostly we'll eat the zucchinis and the summer squashes fresh, but if I have any leftover, I'd like to shred it and dry it for soups and stews. And I would also like to cube it and freeze it, and shred it and freeze it. Cube it and freeze it for the same reason for the summer squash, so that I can add it to stir fries and that sort of thing. And shredding for baked goods, so like zucchini bread or zucchini muffins and that sort of thing. Oh, here's something new that I wanted to try. We eat a lot of stir fries, so I really like to try making some of my own blends with vegetables. So, for instance, for one stir fry mix, we would have like broccoli, corn, snow peas, shredded carrots, probably a number of other things, but I would have to buy them, like the, I can't think of what it's called, but anyway, I just wrote down here 24 bags. That would be my goal. If I could, I can't seem to grow broccoli or cauliflower to save my life, so I don't know if this is a very lofty goal. I don't know if I'll make it or not. But here's another one that we had, this Mediterranean stir fry, and it was absolutely delicious. I'd like to see if I could recreate that. So I would have zucchini cut up and frozen, and the summer squash and eggplant cut up and frozen, because it was so delicious. So I wrote just 4 bags there to see how it freezes over, and notice there's nothing else with these, because I've never fermented yet. This is something new that I'm getting into this year, so that's where I'm going to be focusing some of my energy too, not just canning, drying, and fermenting, but each vegetable will have its own way of preserving. Some of them, like an onion, I'm doing pretty much all of the above. I've never canned onions, but I'm going to be drying them. I'm going to try fermenting them, because my husband liked the red onions. He loves them. Well, technically I will be canning them, because they'll be the red pickled onions, but I just won't be putting them in a canner. And then I'll be freezing them. So this is what mine looks like, and this is why it's so important, because this will give me a good idea. Now I can figure out, if I need 45 quarts of tomatoes, I figure out how many pounds goes into each quart and each pint, and then how many plants are needed per pound of tomatoes. So you can figure out how much your family uses just by going through your inventory and making a list, and then figuring out how many jars you want to make of each thing. So I hope you found this helpful, friends. I will try to link these beautiful printouts down below so that you can use them too. Thanks for watching, friends. Bye-bye for now.